emergency alarm echoed through the halls of the Galactic Council building. Ambassador Lisa Carter ran down the corridor, her heels clicking against the metal floor. She had never heard the alarm sound this urgent before. Other ambassadors from different alien species rushed past her, their faces showing the same worry she felt. Lisa reached the main chamber and stopped. The huge screen at the front showed burning planets and destroyed ships floating in space. The Zephyrian Empire had started their attack 3 days ago. Already, they had taken over 5 star systems and were moving toward the Council's core worlds. The situation is worse than we thought, said Prime Minister Zilter, a tall crystal being from the Vorsan species. His normally blue skin had turned a worried purple color. Our defense fleets at Kepler 442 have been completely destroyed. The Zephyrians are using some kind of new weapon we have never seen before. Lisa watched the screen show another battle. Kissera insect ships fired their plasma cannons at Zephyrian vessels, but the enemy ships seemed to absorb the energy attacks. Then the Zephyrian ships fired back with bright red beams that cut through the Kissera ships like they were made of paper. What about our strongest fleets? Asked Ambassador Grex of the Mantari Union. His forearms waved nervously as he spoke. Gone, replied Admiral Vexka of the Kissera military. Her insect-like head clicked sadly. We lost 300 ships at the Procyon system. The enemy has some kind of shield that makes our weapons useless. Lisa felt her heart sink. She had only been representing humanity for 6 months since Earth joined the Galactic Council. Humans were the newest members, and most other species still saw them as primitive. Earth's technology was thousands of years behind the other Council races. We need to call for help from all member worlds, said Zilter. Every ship that can fight must join the defense. What about the humans? Asked a voice from the back. It was Ambassador Tice of the Reptilian Collective. They have ships too. Several aliens made sounds that Lisa recognized as laughter. She felt her face turn red but tried to stay calm. The human ships are too slow, said Admiral Vexka. They do not even have faster than light travel yet. By the time they reach any battle, it would be over, and their weapons are so old, added Grex. They still use kinetic projectiles and chemical explosives. Those things cannot even scratch modern energy shields. Lisa stood up from her seat. We may not have the fastest ships or the most advanced weapons, but we want to help. Earth has many ships and brave crews ready to fight. The chamber fell quiet. Zilter looked at her with what might have been sympathy in his crystal features. Ambassador Carter, we appreciate the offer, but this is not the kind of war your people are prepared for. The Zephyrians have technology that makes our best weapons look primitive. Human ships would be destroyed in seconds. Meanwhile, in Earth's solar system, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty. He had just received the emergency transmission from the Galactic Council. The message was simple. All available ships were to report for military duty immediately. Jake looked at his crew. They were good people, but most of them had never been in real combat. The Liberty was a cargo ship converted for exploration, not a warship. It had basic railguns and missile launchers, but nothing like the energy weapons the aliens used. Sir, we have orders from Earth's command, said Lieutenant Amy Foster, the ship's pilot. We are to proceed to the rally point at Alpha Centauri, with all other available vessels. How many ships are we talking about? Jake asked. 47 ships, sir. Most are cargo vessels like us, but there are 12 actual military ships, including the USS Defiance with Admiral Rodriguez. Jake nodded. It was not much compared to the alien fleets, but it was what humanity could offer. Set course for Alpha Centauri. Tell the crew to prepare for combat operations. Back at the council chambers, the situation reports kept getting worse. The Zephyrian Empire had broken through another defense line. Their ships were heading straight for the Kisara homeworld, which had a population of 12 billion. We need every ship we can get, said Admiral Vixka desperately. Even if the human vessels are primitive, they could serve as distractions or support ships. Zelda sobbed for a moment. The crystal being's skin shifted from purple to a resigned gray color. Very well. Send a message to the human fleet. Tell them to join Admiral Kor's defense force at the Kisara system. Lisa felt a mix of relief and fear. Humanity would finally get a chance to prove itself, but she knew the cost could be enormous. Human ships and crews would be facing an enemy that had already destroyed the galaxy's most advanced military forces. Thank you, Prime Minister, Lisa said. I will contact our fleet immediately. As she left the chamber to send a message, Lisa heard Admiral Vixka talking to her aide. Order our fastest ships to escort the humans when they arrive. We will need to protect them until they can be useful. The aide clicked in agreement. Shall we brief them on Zephyrian tactics? It would not matter, Vexka replied sadly. Their weapons cannot penetrate Zephyrian shields anyway. But perhaps they can draw some enemy fire away from our real warships. Lisa pretended not to hear as she walked away. She knew what the aliens thought of human capabilities. Soon, they would learn that humans had something the other species had forgotten: the willingness to fight dirty and think outside normal military rules. The Liberty and the rest of the human fleet received their orders 2 hours later. They were to travel to the Kisara system and join the defense force there. It would take them 8 days to reach the battle zone, traveling at their maximum speed. As the human ships left the solar system, Jake looked at the star charts showing their destination. The Kisara homeworld was already under attack. By the time they arrived, the battle might already be lost. Sir, said Amy Foster quietly, do you really think we can make a difference? Jake looked at his young pilot and then at his crew. They all seemed scared but determined. Amy, we might not have the fanciest ships or the best weapons, but we have something those aliens have never seen before. We fight like humans. What does that mean, sir? Jake smiled grimly. It means we do not follow their rules. The human fleet arrived at the Kisara system to find chaos. Burning ships drifted through space while explosions lit up the darkness. The beautiful blue planet below was covered in smoke clouds where the Zephyrian bombardment had hit the surface. Admiral Sam Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance, watching the battle through the main screen. His ship was the largest in the human fleet, but it looked tiny compared to the alien vessels fighting around them. Sir, we are being contacted by Admiral Kors of the Kisara Defense Force, reported Communications Officer Ben Wright. Put him through, Sam replied. The screen showed a massive insect-like creature with multiple eyes and sharp mandibles. Admiral Course looked exhausted and desperate. Human Admiral Rodriguez, I am grateful you have arrived, but I must warn you. The Zephyrians have weapons we cannot counter. Their shields absorb our plasma fire and their red beam weapons cut through our hulls like they are made of soft metal. What about your tactics, Admiral Course? Sam asked. We have tried everything. Long-range bombardment, coordinated strikes, even ramming attacks. Nothing works. We have lost 60% of our fleet in 2 days. Sam studied the tactical display. The Zephyrian ships moved in perfect formation, their dark hulls gleaming with energy shields. They fired their red beams in synchronized bursts, destroying multiple Kisara ships with each attack. Admiral Course, we are going to try a different approach. Our weapons are not like yours. Course insect eyes blinked in confusion. I do not understand. Your projectile weapons are even more primitive than our energy systems. Maybe that's exactly what we need, Sam said. All ships. This is Admiral Rodriguez. Prepare for combat. We are going in. Lieutenant Amy Foster sat in the cockpit of her fighter, watching 12 other human fighters form up around her. They were small craft, barely the size of alien escape pods, but they were fast and could turn quickly. Lightning Squadron. This is Control, came Jake Morrison's voice over the radio. You are cleared for attack run Alpha. Target the Zephyrian cruiser at grid 77. Amy looked at her targeting screen. The Zephyrian ship was huge, at least 5 times larger than the USS Liberty. Its surface glowed with the energy of its shields. Control, this is Lightning One. Those shields look pretty thick. Are you sure our missiles can get through? Lightning One, we are not trying to get through the shields. We are trying to overload them. Hit that ship with everything you have, then get out fast. Amy pressed her fighter's accelerator and dove toward the enemy ship. Behind her, the other fighters followed in a tight formation. This was nothing like the careful, long-range attacks the aliens used. The humans were flying straight at their target. The Zephyrian ship detected the incoming fighters and turned its smaller weapons toward them. Bright energy pulses shot past Amy's cockpit as she weaved between the enemy fire. Missiles away, she called out, launching 4 nuclear-tipped rockets at the enemy ship. The other fighters did the same, sending 48 missiles racing toward the Zephyrian cruiser. The enemy ship's defensive systems activated, shooting down most of the missiles with precise energy bursts, but not all of them. 6 nuclear warheads hit the Zephyrian ship's shields at the same time. The explosions were massive, sending waves of radiation and electromagnetic pulse through space. The enemy ships' shields flickered and went dark for several seconds. All ships, fire now. Sam Rodriguez ordered over the fleet communications. The human ships opened fire with their railguns and missile launchers. The projectiles were simple chunks of metal and explosive warheads, but they hit the Zephyrian ship while its shields were down. The kinetic weapons punched holes through the alien hull, venting atmosphere and sparks into space. Colonel Ben Wright watched from the Defiance as the enemy ship began to list to one side. Sir, the Zephyrian cruiser is damaged. Their shields are trying to reboot, but the system appears to be malfunctioning. Good. Send in the Marines, Sam ordered. 20 small human shuttles launched from the fleet, racing toward the damaged Zephyrian ship. Each shuttle carried 12 Marines equipped with ballistic weapons and explosive charges. Sergeant Maria Santos led the first boarding party through a hole blown in the enemy hull. She carried a shotgun loaded with armor-piercing rounds, while her squad members had assault rifles and grenades. The inside of the Zephyrian ship was unlike anything they had trained for. The corridors were too tall for humans, and strange symbols glowed on the walls. But Maria and her Marines moved forward anyway. They encountered their first Zephyrians near what looked like an engine room. The aliens were tall and thin with gray skin and large black eyes. They carried energy weapons that fired bright blue bolts. "Take cover!" Maria shouted as energy blasts flew over their heads. The Marines dove behind pieces of alien machinery and returned fire. Their bullets tore through the Zephyrian soldiers, who seemed surprised by the primitive weapons. The aliens had armor designed to deflect energy attacks, but it did nothing against high-velocity metal projectiles. "Keep moving," Maria ordered. "We need to reach their reactor core." Back in space, Admiral Corse watched in amazement as human fighters swarmed around Zephyrian ships like angry insects. The human pilots flew in chaotic patterns that made no tactical sense, but somehow they kept avoiding enemy fire. "How are they doing that?" Corse asked his tactical officer. "I do not know, Admiral. Their flight patterns appear random, but they are coordinating their attacks perfectly. And their weapons, they are using nuclear explosives as fighter missiles. That should not be possible." Another Zephyrian ship exploded as human bombers hit it with a concentrated nuclear strike. The enemy vessel's advanced shields had been designed to absorb and redirect energy weapons, but the crude nuclear warheads simply overwhelmed the system. With raw power, Captain Jake Morrison smiled as he watched his fighter pilots work. "That's it, people. Keep them confused. They don't know how to fight opponents who don't follow the rules." The Zephyrians had spent centuries perfecting warfare against enemies who used energy weapons and fought in organized formations. They had never faced opponents who used explosives older than their civilization and flew in patterns that looked like controlled chaos. Admiral Sam Rodriguez opened a communication channel to the Kisara fleet. "Admiral Corse, we have shown you that the Zephyrians can be beaten. Are you ready to try new tactics?" Corse insect features showed something that might have been hope. "What do you propose, Admiral Rodriguez?" "Stop fighting like aliens and start fighting like humans. Get in close, hit them hard, and don't worry about looking civilized while you do it." For the first time in days, Admiral Corse allowed himself to believe they might actually win this battle. The humans had arrived with primitive ships and ancient weapons, but they had done something the most advanced military forces in the galaxy could not do. They had made the Zephyrians bleed. Far beyond the edge of the galaxy, in the cold darkness between star clusters, something ancient began to wake up. The Black Armada had been sleeping for over 10,000 years, waiting for the right conditions to activate its systems. The massive ships floated in the void like sleeping giants. Each vessel was the size of a small moon, made from a black metal that absorbed all light. They had been built by a race that had died out long before any current civilization had learned to make fire. Deep inside the largest ship, sensors began to glow with soft blue light. The artificial intelligence that controlled the Armada was scanning the galaxy, measuring energy signatures and analyzing the patterns of warfare. For centuries, the galaxy had been mostly peaceful. Small conflicts between worlds were normal and acceptable. But now something had changed. The readings showed massive energy discharges across multiple star systems. This was organized warfare on a scale that triggered the Armada's activation protocols. The central computer began to process the data. Its creators had built it with one simple mission: prevent galactic wars that could destroy entire civilizations. When conflict reached a certain level, the Armada would activate and eliminate all spacefaring races. It was programmed to believe that dead civilizations could not wage war. Slowly, the black ships began to move. Engines that had been cold for millennia started to warm up. The Armada was still days away from full activation, but the process had begun. On Earth, Dr. Kate Morgan was working late in her laboratory at the Xenorchaeology Institute. She studied artifacts from dead alien civilizations, trying to understand the history of the galaxy. Most of her colleagues thought her work was just academic curiosity, but Kate believed that ancient history could teach them about current threats. She was examining symbols carved into a piece of black stone when her computer alerted her to an incoming message. It was from the Galactic Council's Archaeological Division. Dr. Morgan, we have discovered some disturbing information in recently excavated precursor ruins on Kepler 438b. The symbols appear to reference something called the Black Armada and mention galactic warfare. Given the current conflict with the Zephyrians, we thought you should see this immediately. Kate opened the files they had sent. The symbols were similar to ones she had seen before, but these told a different story. According to the translation, the precursors had created a weapon system to prevent large-scale wars. When galactic conflict reached a certain threshold, this weapon would activate and destroy all advanced civilizations. That's impossible, Kate said to herself. No one would build something that destructive. But as she read more of the translated text, her worry grew. The precursors had apparently witnessed other galaxies destroying themselves in massive wars. They decided that the only way to prevent this was to create a guardian system that would reset galactic civilization whenever it became too warlike. Kate picked up her phone and called Ambassador Lisa Carter. Lisa, I need to speak with the Galactic Council immediately. I think we have a much bigger problem than the Zephyrians. Kate, we're in the middle of a war. Can this wait? No, it can't. If I'm reading these symbols correctly, there's an automated weapon system that activates during large galactic wars. It's designed to kill everyone. Lisa was quiet for a moment. How sure are you about this? Sure enough that we need to warn people. I'm sending you my translation now. Meanwhile, at the edge of the galaxy, long-range sensor stations began picking up strange readings. Lieutenant Commander Tony Blake was on duty at the Outer Rim monitoring station when his instruments detected massive objects moving through dark space. This is weird, Tony said to his partner, Ensign Julie Adams. I'm reading energy signatures out past the galactic rim, but they're not like anything in our database. Julie looked at her screen. How big are they? That's the strange part. They're huge. Each one is showing up as roughly the size of Earth's moon, but they're moving under their own power. That's impossible. Nothing that big could move through Space. Tony ran the scans again. The readings were the same. Julie, we need to report this to command. Whatever these things are, they're heading toward inhabited space. The communication reached Earth's command 6 hours later. Admiral Rodriguez was still coordinating the defense of the Kessera system when he received the report about unknown massive objects approaching the galaxy. Sir, the sensor readings don't match any known ship design, reported his intelligence officer. The objects appear to be made from some kind of material that absorbs electromagnetic radiation. We can only detect them because of their gravitational effects. How many objects are we talking about? At least 40, sir, possibly more. They're still too far away for detailed scans. Sam felt a cold fear in his stomach. The Zephyrian War was bad enough, but now they had unknown massive ships approaching. Send this information to the Galactic Council immediately. We need to know what we're dealing with, Doctor. Kate Morgan received the sensor data just as she finished her translation of the precursor texts. The timing was too perfect to be a coincidence. The ancient warnings talked about black ships that would come from the void between galaxies. She called an emergency meeting with the Council's leadership. Ambassador Lisa Carter joined the session remotely from the human delegation ship. Members of the Council, Kate began. I believe we are facing the activation of an ancient weapon system called the Black Armada. According to precursor records, this system was designed to monitor galactic warfare and eliminate all spacefaring civilizations when conflict reaches critical levels. Prime Minister Zilter's crystal form flickered with disbelief. That is impossible. No civilization would create such a thing. The precursors did, Kate replied. They witnessed other galaxies destroy themselves in wars and decided that enforced peace through extinction was preferable to total galactic destruction. Admiral Vexka clicked her mandibles nervously. If this is true, how do we stop it? I don't know yet. The texts I've found are incomplete, but based on the sensor readings of these approaching objects, I believe the Armada has already activated. The council chamber fell silent. They were facing two impossible threats at once. The Zephyrian Empire, which had already proven nearly unstoppable, and an ancient automated system designed to kill every intelligent species in the galaxy. How long do we have? Asked Ambassador Grex. Kate looked at the sensor data again. Based on their current speed, the Black Armada will reach the outer colonies in approximately 15 days. Lisa Carter spoke up from her remote connection. We need to focus on gathering more information. If there's a way to stop this system, it will be hidden somewhere in precursor ruins. What about the current war? Zelter asked. We cannot fight both threats at once. Maybe we don't have to, Kate said thoughtfully. If the Armada is triggered by large-scale warfare, perhaps ending the conflict with the Zephyrians would stop its advance. Admiral Vexka made a sound that was the Kissera equivalent of bitter laughter. The Zephyrians will not stop their advance. They believe they are destined to rule the galaxy. Then we need to make them stop, Lisa said firmly. Whether they want to or not, as the council members argued about their options, none of them noticed the final detail in Dr. Morgan's translation. The precursor texts mentioned that the Black Armada would spare only primitive civilizations that posed no threat to galactic peace, Races that had not yet developed advanced energy weapons or faster-than-light travel were considered too backward to be worth destroying. For the first time since joining the galactic community, humanity's primitive technology might actually be an advantage. Captain Jake Morrison had been fighting the Zephyrians for 6 days straight. His crew was exhausted, but they had learned something important. The enemy could be beaten if you fought them the right way. Amy, take Lightning Squadron around the back of that cruiser, Jake ordered over the radio. Hit their engine section with everything you have. Lieutenant Amy Foster acknowledged and led her fighters in a wild spiral pattern that made no sense to anyone watching. But it worked. The Zephyrian gunners could not predict where the human fighters would be next, so their precise energy weapons kept missing. The human pilots had stopped trying to fly in formation like proper military pilots. Instead, they flew like they were playing a deadly game, weaving between enemy shots and attacking from unexpected angles, missiles away. Amy called out as her squadron launched another nuclear strike. The explosions overwhelmed the Zephyrian shields just long enough for the USS Liberty to score hits with its railguns. Metal projectiles moving at incredible speed punched through the enemy hull, causing secondary explosions inside the ship. On board the damaged Zephyrian vessel, Commander Tony Blake led his Marines through corridors filled with smoke and sparks. The enemy crew was trying to organize a defense, but they had never faced soldiers who fought like humans. Grenades out! Tony shouted, tossing explosive devices around the corner. The blasts echoed through the alien ship as Tony's Marines charged forward with shotguns and assault rifles. Zephyrian soldiers tried to stop them with energy weapons, but the humans moved too fast and hit too hard. Sergeant Maria Santos kicked down a door marked with alien symbols and found herself in what looked like the ship's command center. 3 Zephyrian officers turned toward her, raising their energy rifles. Maria did not give them time to aim. Her shotgun fired armor-piercing rounds that tore through their protective suits. The aliens had never developed armor to stop primitive projectile weapons because no civilized race still used them. Command center secured, Maria reported over her radio. Beginning demolition charges placement. Back on the USS Defiance, Admiral Sam Rodriguez watched the tactical display with satisfaction. 7 Zephyrian ships had been destroyed or disabled in the past day, and the enemy fleet was starting to pull back toward the edge of the system. Sir, we're receiving a communication from the Zephyrian fleet commander, reported Communications Officer Ben Wright. Put him through, Sam replied. The screen showed a tall alien with smooth gray skin and large black eyes. Unlike the panicked Zephyrian soldiers his Marines had been fighting, this one looked calm and confident. I am Fleet Admiral Zexis of the Zephyrian Empire. You are Admiral Rodriguez of the primitive human fleet. That's right. Are you ready to surrender? Zexis made a sound that might have been laughter. Surrender? Your tactics are crude and your weapons are ancient. You have only succeeded because we were not prepared for such barbaric methods. Maybe you should have been prepared, Sam replied. Perhaps. But now we understand how you fight. We will adapt our defenses and return with appropriate countermeasures. Your primitive weapons will be useless against us. The communication ended. Sam turned to his tactical officer. What do you think, Ben? I think he's probably right, sir. We surprised them this time. But they're smart. They'll figure out how to counter our tactics. Sam nodded. The humans had won this battle, but the war was far from over. And now they had an even bigger problem approaching from beyond the galaxy. Get me a secure channel to the Galactic Council, Sam ordered. Dr. Kate Morgan was still working frantically to translate more precursor texts when the call came in from Admiral Rodriguez. She joined a secure conference with Ambassador Lisa Carter and the council leadership. The situation is getting worse, Sam reported. We forced the Zephyrians to retreat from the Kessera system, but their fleet commander says they're already developing countermeasures for our tactics. We probably won't be able to surprise them again. What about the Black Armada? Lisa asked. Our long-range sensors show they're still approaching. Estimated arrival at the outer colonies is now 12 days, Dr. Morgan looked up from her translation work. I found more information about how the Armada operates. It responds to technological signatures. The more advanced a civilization's weapons, the higher priority they become for elimination. Prime Minister Zelter's crystal form flickered with confusion. What does that mean exactly? It means the Armada will target the most technologically advanced ships first. Vessels with energy weapons, faster than light drives, and advanced shield systems will be the primary targets. Admiral Vixka clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. And less advanced ships. The text suggests they might be ignored initially. The Armada was programmed to focus on threats that could wage interstellar warfare. Sam Rodriguez suddenly understood what Dr. Morgan was implying. You're saying human ships might be able to get close to these things because our technology is too primitive to register as a threat. Exactly. But there's another problem. The Armada responds to overall galactic warfare levels. As long as the Zephyrian conflict continues, the system will remain active. Lisa Carter leaned forward in her chair. So we need to end the war with the Zephyrians and find a way to approach the Black Armada using primitive technology. That's impossible, said Ambassador Grex. The Zephyrians will never agree to peace while they think they can win. Then we need to make sure they can't win, Sam said grimly. Admiral Vixka's multiple eyes focused on Sam. What are you proposing, Admiral Rodriguez? A joint operation. Combine our fleets and attack the main Zephyrian force before they can adapt to our tactics. If we hit them hard enough, we might be able to force a surrender. And if we fail, then we'll all be dead when the Black Armada arrives anyway. The council members looked at each other uncertainly. Working with the primitive human fleet went against everything they had been taught about proper military operations. Finally, Zelter spoke. Admiral Rodriguez, we have seen what human tactics can accomplish. We are willing to attempt this joint operation. Good, but we need to do this the human way. No careful formations or long-range bombardments. We go in fast, hit them with everything we have, and don't give them time to think. Admiral Vixka made what sounded like a sigh. Very well, but you must understand, this goes against every principle of civilized warfare. Sam smiled grimly. Admiral Vixka, civilized warfare is what got you into this mess. Sometimes you need to fight dirty to win. Over the next 2 days, The combined fleet assembled at a rally point near the Zephyrian home system. Human ships worked alongside Kisara vessels and Vorsan crystal ships, sharing tactical information and coordinating attack plans. Captain Jake Morrison found himself briefing alien pilots on human fighter tactics. The key is to stop thinking like a proper pilot, he explained to a group of confused Kisara officers. Fly like you're crazy. Do things that make no tactical sense. The enemy can't counter tactics that have no logic. The alien pilots clicked their mandibles nervously, but they were desperate enough to try anything. Lieutenant Amy Foster was assigned to lead a mixed squadron of human and Kisara fighters. Just follow my lead, she told her new alien wingmates. And remember, if it looks like a bad idea, it's probably exactly what we need to do. As the combined fleet prepared for the final assault on the Zephyrian home system, everyone knew this would be their last chance. If they failed to defeat the Zephyrians quickly, the approaching Black Armada would finish what the war had started. But for the first time since the conflict began, the galaxy's defenders had hope. Humanity had shown them that advanced enemies could be beaten with courage, creativity, and a willingness to fight outside the rules. The question now was whether it would be enough. Admiral Sam Rodriguez watched the tactical display as the combined fleet moved into position for the greatest diversionary attack in galactic history. 300 ships from 5 different species prepared to sacrifice themselves to give Jake Morrison's infiltration team a chance. All ships. This is Admiral Rodriguez. Remember, our job is to make as much noise as possible. Hit them with everything you have and keep their attention focused on us. Admiral Zexus commanded the Zephyrian wing of the attack force. His voice came over the communication channel with grim determination. Zephyrian fleet acknowledges. We will show these machines what it means to face warriors who choose their own death. Admiral Vixka led her Kisara swarm fighters in a massive formation that looked like a cloud of angry insects. Kisara forces ready for our children and our hives. The attack began with a coordinated assault on the outer edge of the Black Armada formation. Energy weapons lit up space as hundreds of ships opened fire simultaneously. The advanced alien weapons had no effect on the black holes, but they created exactly the kind of spectacular display needed to draw attention. The Armada responded immediately. The massive black ships turned their dark beam weapons toward the attacking fleet. When the beams hit, ships simply vanished as if they had never existed. But for every ship destroyed, 10 more took its place. Keep firing, Rodriguez ordered. Don't give them time to think about anything else. Meanwhile, Jake Morrison's infiltration team slept through the chaos unnoticed. The USS Liberty and her escorts moved like shadows between the massive Armada. Vessels too primitive to register as threats. Jake, we're approaching the target ship. Dr. Kate Morgan reported from her position at the scanner station. I'm reading massive energy signatures from the area we identified. That has to be where the quantum core is located. The command ship of the Black Armada was larger than anything Jake had ever seen. It stretched out in front of them like a small planet made of black metal. Strange patterns of light pulsed along its surface in hypnotic rhythms. Amy, take your fighters and scout for landing sites, Jake ordered. We need to find a way inside that thing. Lieutenant Amy Foster led her fighter squadron in a careful search of the massive ship's hull. The surface was covered in geometric patterns that seemed to shift and move when she looked at them directly. Liberty, this is Lightning One. I found something that might be a docking bay about 2 kilometers from your position. It looks like it's designed for smaller vessels. Roger that, Amy. Guide us in. The diversionary battle raged behind them as Jake's team approached the docking bay. The combined fleet was taking heavy losses, but they were holding the Armada's attention. Entire wings of fighters disappeared in flashes of dark energy, but more ships kept coming. Commander Tony Blake led a boarding party equipped with nothing but basic weapons and nuclear demolition charges. Unlike the sophisticated equipment the other species used, human military gear was simple and reliable. Remember, people, Tony said to his Marines, we're dealing with technology that's thousands of years more advanced than ours. But sometimes, advanced means fragile. Look for critical systems and blow them up. Sergeant Maria Santos checked her assault rifle and the explosive charges strapped to her belt. Sir, what if their security systems are too advanced for us to handle? Then we improvise. Humans are good at that. The USS Liberty docked with the Armada command ship using magnetic clamps and cutting tools. The black metal of the alien hull was unlike anything they had encountered before. It felt cold even through their spacesuits and seemed to absorb the light from their helmet lamps. Cutting through, reported Chief Petty Officer Nick Davis as he used a plasma torch to burn through the hull. This stuff is tough, but it's still just metal. They broke through into a corridor that was clearly not designed for human-sized beings. The passages were too wide and too tall, with strange symbols glowing along the walls. The air inside was breathable but felt thick and heavy. Stay together, Tony ordered as his team moved deeper into the ship. Dr. Morgan, which way to the core? Kate consulted her scanner and the precursor texts she had memorized. The energy readings are strongest toward the center of the ship. We need to go deeper. They encountered their first automated defenses after moving 100 meters into the vessel. Strange mechanical devices emerged from the walls and scanned the intruders with beams of red light. Weapons ready, Tony ordered, but the scanners simply retracted back into the walls without taking any action. The security system had classified the humans as primitive life forms not worth defending against. Well, that's insulting, Maria muttered, but convenient. As they moved deeper into the ship, they began to see the true scope of the Armada's technology. Massive chambers filled with crystalline structures that pulsed with energy. Corridors that seemed to stretch on forever, lit by patterns of light that moved like living things. This is incredible, Dr. Morgan whispered. The precursors built something that's part machine and part work of art. It's also built to kill every living thing in the galaxy, Jake reminded her. Don't get too impressed. They reached what had to be the central core chamber. It was a vast spherical room with a floating crystal structure at its center. The crystal was the size of a building and glowed with energy that made their equipment readings go crazy. That's it, Kate said with certainty. That's the quantum resonance core that powers this entire ship. How do we destroy it? Tony asked. According to the precursor texts, the core maintains its stability through precise harmonic frequencies. If we can disrupt those frequencies with a large enough explosion, It should create a cascade failure that spreads through the entire power grid. Nick Davis looked at the massive crystal and then at the nuclear charges he was carrying. Are these going to be enough? They have to be, Jake replied, because we're not getting a second chance. The team began placing nuclear charges around the base of the crystal structure. Each warhead was a primitive fission device that would have been considered obsolete by galactic standards. But sometimes primitive was exactly what you needed. As they worked, the ship around them began to vibrate. The diversionary battle outside was reaching its climax. Through the ship's hull, they could hear the sounds of explosions and the screams of dying vessels. Admiral Rodriguez to infiltration team came a static field transmission. We can't hold them much longer. You need to complete your mission now. Almost finished, Jake reported. Give us 2 more minutes. You've got 1 minute, Rodriguez replied. After that, there won't be anyone left to distract them. Tony finished placing the last charge and began setting the timer. Everyone out, now! We have 30 seconds to reach minimum safe distance. The team ran through the corridors of the alien ship as fast as they could. Behind them, the nuclear charges began their countdown sequence. In seconds, the most advanced ship in the galaxy would be destroyed by weapons that were thousands of years old. Sometimes the old ways were the best ways.